welcome back to What Did You Learn? I'm very excited to have here today somebody who can speak to us about health literacy and patient or customer-centered language. Alison Caballero is the director of the Center of Literacy at the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences. Welcome, Alison. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. So before we get started on what life was like during this very interesting time, tell me how you spent your time during the pandemic.
Well, that is such a funny question to me because I think I've spent it about the same way I did before the pandemic, which I feel like most people have really changed up what they do. And maybe my life was just not super exciting before. I don't know, but I've spent my time working. That's looked very different, but I've definitely spent my time working. I've spent my time, managing my kids' appointments and things like that, and spending time with friends and family. I would say the one shift has been spending more time outside with neighbors, because for so long, I say I spent time with friends and family, two grandmothers who come over on a regular basis to help with childcare, and that we had to let them keep coming, right? But we pretty much walled ourselves off from everyone else. And so we would allow ourselves to slip outside and talk to the neighbors and have cocktails in the driveway and that sort of thing. So that was a little bit different. But apart from that, I think most of my time was spent the same way, not going out places the way that we did before, but certainly still, interacting with people in other ways. But
yeah. I learned how to make sourdough bread. I learned how to TikTok, and I did a lot of jigsaw puzzles. So
I tried the sourdough once. That was way too difficult for me. And the instructions were not in what I call plain language. And that's what we do at the Center for Health Literacy. We write things in living room language. Well, that sourdough recipe was anything but. And it just was, it required a lot of attention. And for some reason, I just didn't have any to spare. So
yeah, I hear that.
One loaf and I'm done.
All right, so let's jump into plain language, because, when this whole thing started, it was really clear to me that we were not using terms, real words for real people. And I sort of wonder what your experience was like watching all of this happen. I felt kind of helpless, which is why, we tried to create all these plain language cheat sheets and help, the healthcare communicators that we knew were struggling to explain these things. How did you approach it? First of all, in your own head, professionally, emotionally, and then what did you do to make sure that that reaction was being played out in the real world?
That is such a huge question, right? So when we think about health messaging, there are so many layers in order for it to stick, right? To have that real world experience, that it lands, it sticks, it's meaningful to people, they can act on it. There's this whole series of things that have to happen. And it starts with getting the right information out there, right? So the right content. Well, where does that come from? And so a lot of that typically has to do with taking your time and combing the literature to say, well, who is our target audience? And what does the literature say that our target audience believes, knows, struggles with regard to this health topic? And then you build your content out appropriately. So my fellow health educators around the country, we geek out on health behavior theory. So we want to say, all right, let's look at the health belief model, or let's look at the socio-ecological model, or, trans-theoretical, any of those to help us figure out what is it that a person is going to need in terms of knowledge, skills, attitudes, et cetera, to adopt this health behavior that we want them to adopt, or to reject an unhealthy one. And then let's go to the literature and see what it says about all of that. And in a pandemic, there wasn't a lot of time, and really kudos go out to all of the communicators that were trying every day to stay on top of COVID related messaging, because you didn't have time. And the other compounding factor was clearly that information was changing as rapidly it was coming out, and you were getting it articulated and put out in your social media or wherever you do your outreach. By the next day, it was different. And that was a real challenge for us as well. So in our work, we're not tasked at our academic health system. We are not part of the communications department. We work very closely with them. But there were certainly many other people engaged in day-to-day communication about COVID-19, where our group lent a hand, mostly during COVID and for a lot of other health issues too, is taking what someone's already put down. Someone's already done that work to figure out, okay, what's the content that needs to go out, taking that and distilling it down into words that everyone, or at least most people, can not just understand, not just read, but also use. And I tell people all the time, people say, "Oh, you do health literacy work. That's awesome. You can help me get this, mammoth of a document distilled down to a sixth grade reading level." And I say, I can, and that's great, and that's a good start. But that's not everything. I can give you directions to my house written at the third grade level. But if I miss a step, a turnoff, or if I kind of interchange two things, put them in the wrong order, or I leave something to the interpretation, was that Valley Drive or Valley Street? If I leave something to the interpretation, then chances are you're not going to make it out to my house. And the same is true with our healthcare language. We tend to focus a lot on let's get it down to a sixth grade level, but not on, okay, well, what do the words on the page mean to the people that are reading them, and do they have enough information to act on it?
Okay, so yes, and the next thing I want to ask you is, how much do you think the confusing messaging, information, rapidly changing topics, lack of research on people's mental models around this contributed to what we call the infodemic?
So probably a lot. I think that anytime it gets, and this is me talking, and a little bit of a product of what I've read as well and studied. But when things get heavy, we tend to turn on this other part of our brain, right? So if you've got things coming at you on social media that say one thing and your friends are telling you something else, and then here comes this other social media article that has yet something else. And then your brain has to do the hard work of sorting all of that out and categorizing things into, what do I believe? What do I not believe? Who do I trust? Who do I not trust? What sounds logical to me? What doesn't? And then there's this other body of stuff that comes at us that's often, we just don't even understand it. It's so heavy. It's so scientific. It's so dense with numbers. I can't even do the brain work to try to understand it. When things get heavy like that, we tend to turn off that part of our brain, that analytical part of our brain, and resort back to more emotional decision making.
We go right back to our amygdala.
Yeah.
The frontal cortex is not working anymore. Right.
And I think that with the pandemic, we had a lot of kind of keyed up emotions because we had the unknown, and the unknown elicits, uncertainty and fear and all of these things. And so I think all of that really contributed to our just kind of wanting to maybe shut a lot of that out and just let me just go with my gut. But unfortunately, I think if public health and health related communicators are not very strategic going forward, I think we're going to continue to struggle with that. I think a lot of people have made it through the pandemic, thankfully, but have made it through the pandemic without serious consequences, without a loss that's, close and personal to them. And perhaps some people have done so without following today's public health recommendations, or without shifting to today's, even though they followed them up till yesterday and then they decided they were done, right? And so I think we have to be, I think for me, this has illuminated this need to provide some solid foundational education. I'm talking K-12 and beyond, about how science works. And I don't just mean enough that you know the scientific method and you can put together the trifold for your science fair, right? But how science works, and why is it that public health professionals didn't know everything on day one? Why is it that still here on day, what are we on? I don't know,
1,432.
I don't know. That we still don't have all the answers, and that things do continue to evolve. The recommendations continue to shift a little bit based on the data and based on the science. But I think a lot of that has not really sunk in with the general public, and there's still some perception of, well, nobody really knows about these things anyway, so let me just do what I want to do, or what I think is right, or what my family thinks is right, and let me not listen to the health and public health experts. And I think that's a little scary, frankly, and I hope that we can do a better job kind of educating people about that. How do you evaluate online health information to determine if it's an authoritative source or not? What should you do when you open up an article that you clicked on from a social media post, and it is heavy, and you don't understand the numbers and the confidence intervals and all those lovely things? What are you supposed to do? What could you do in that situation? And I just think we have a long way to go in preparing people to be able to address those challenges, which are going to continue to face them every day.
I agree. And I think you're going to see some sort of regulation from the United States government. But what I do want to ask you before you go is, you mentioned reading levels, and I have a really hard time with reading levels. We know that 9 out of 10 Americans suffer from health literacy. We know that, literacy levels in many ways are dropping. What, language transforms. I have, a whole bunch of Gen Zers living in my house. The way that they talk and spell things is terrifying to me as a professional writer. Do you buy into literacy levels? I know that we need some tool of measurement, but I find that they're not the best way to determine if language is clear.
Right.
So, can you talk me through your thinking around that model?
Yeah. So health literacy metrics are different than functional literacy metrics, right? So there are in health systems, many health systems, including ours, screen at the patient level for health literacy. And the key word is screen. It's not a diagnostic tool. I can't administer this one question screener. It's one question to you and then deem you to have adequate or inadequate health literacy. What that does help me do is, well, let me back up. So screening, I'll come back to, but in general, you said it, only about 12 out of 100 Americans have proficient health literacy skills. So all the skills they need to find health information, discern fact from fiction, good information from junk, understand the information, read it, and use it for their benefit. And it's a lot of skills, right? It's more than just reading the words on the page. It's about interacting with a healthcare provider face to face,
Critical thinking.
Say again.
Critical thinking.
Oh, absolutely. Critical thinking, knowing what's being asked and how to formulate a response that's accurate and helpful in that kind of setting. Same thing with a survey or a form that patients fill out. There's that kind of document literacy aspect. And then quantitative, I've mentioned numbers a few times, ask any person with diabetes how much math they have to manage in order to manage their diabetes, and it's significant. And then digital literacy skills are part of health literacy as well. So more and more, we're asking patients to engage with patient portals and, to use devices at the bedside to order their food or request housekeeping, and all of those things can impact a person's health and their experience in your care setting, for that matter. But the bottom line is that, I may consider myself one of the 12 out of 100 who have, pretty good health literacy skills. But if you drop me off down the street at our children's hospital with one of my children, my health literacy goes out the window. Whatever anybody thought I was capable of doing is gone. It's very contextual. And so in healthcare, we have all of these barriers to learning, right? I'm stressed out because I'm here with my kid, or I myself don't feel well. Maybe I've got some pain going on. If you've ever been in pain, you can't think clearly. If you're not feeling well, perhaps you're not sleeping well. If you're in, an inpatient setting, perhaps you're a little bit sedated even. And so all of those things impact people's ability to understand initially and certainly to retain the education that you're trying to provide to them. So it's best to treat everyone as though they may struggle with health information. And look, we all like simple information, whether we admit it or not. The smartest people on the planet love it. I'm married to an attorney, and whenever we get something in related to health, a form to fill out for our daughter, something from the insurance company, he takes one look at it, rolls his eyes, holds up his hands, and just hands it to me and says, "Would you please deal with this, because I can't." And he's a well-educated person. I don't want to mess around trying to understand work in his area either, right?
There's actually a study that shows the more educated you are, the more you prefer plain language, because you're dealing with words all day long.
It benefits everybody. And again, in health, so many learning barriers. So treat everyone, take that universal precautions approach and treat everyone, as though they may struggle, but you can also benefit from screening. So if I'm the provider and I'm sitting across from a patient and there's an advisory that came up on their electronic medical record as I checked their chart before I entered their room, and I know this is a person who has demonstrated that they're likely to struggle with health information, then I can ask, "Hey, did your wife come with you to the appointment today? Could she come in and we could go over all of this together?" Hopefully I'm using teach back in all of my clinical encounters to make sure patients and families understand things before they leave me. But in the event that I'm slipping, and I'm not doing that every time, then I definitely, with that person who has some risk for limited health literacy, we want to go ahead and do that with them. And this may be someone too that you want to make sure and send some extra information home in writing, even if that's not your practice for that particular learning objective with every patient. That may be something that you want to do when you know that the person across from you is more likely to struggle.
That's great. I love that contextual. It just like, it changes the whole thing. I had a daughter who had ITP, and I remember when the hematologist called me.
Okay, wait, plain language. What's ITP?
It basically means that your body destroys platelets, and platelets are the cells that help your blood clot. So if you get a cut and it clots over and it seals itself up, her body was destroying those things. Those cells.
Thanks for explaining that. And I'm just going to interject here. I think that's such an important thing for us to do in healthcare. Even within healthcare, we make assumptions about what other people know. And so when we do our interprofessional education here with all of our colleges, our students from nursing, medicine, pharmacy, public health, we do a lot of that, kind of jargon policing, like let's catch each other. Be willing to step up and say, hey, you used a word, I'm not really sure what that means. Can you explain that to me? And if we do that in front of our patients, then gosh, they might actually feel empowered to raise their hand and say, hold, I don't understand. Let's talk about that.
Alison, thank you so much. You're a rock star. I literally could talk to you all day long.
Well, let's do it again sometime. I enjoyed it. And if we can, share resources or help direct people to more information about plain language and what we do at the center to make health information easy to understand, we'd love to talk to any of you.
Awesome. And where can people find you?
So you can find us online at www.healthliteracy.uams.edu.
And Alison, you can also find Alison on LinkedIn. So.
Oh yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks. Nice to meet you.